My dear friends, tonight we embark on a deeper journey together, immersing ourselves in the heart of a sacred story from God's Word, a narrative of dedication, divine inspiration, and the quiet diligence that builds something truly magnificent for the glory of God. We turn our hearts and minds to the time of King Solomon, and specifically to the monumental, yet remarkably serene, construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, a dwelling place for the Most High. Imagine, for a prolonged moment, walking those ancient paths, the air filled not with the clamor of hurried work, but with a focused, almost prayerful industry, a gentle soundscape of creation. The story of Solomon's temple build is more than an architectural account. It's a testament to God's faithfulness, humanity's responsive devotion, and the profound peace that can accompany even the grandest of undertakings. When guided by a divine hand, it speaks of meticulous planning, of resources gathered from afar, of countless hands working in concert, all towards a single, holy purpose. So, before we delve deeper into this expansive narrative, if these stories from Scripture resonate with your spirit and bring you comfort, I warmly invite you to like this reflection and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps share these messages of hope, faith, and peace with others. We also invite you now, if you feel comfortable, to share in the comments a brief prayer intention, perhaps a favorite Bible verse related to building a life of faith, or the sanctity of a dedicated space, or even just the city or country where you are listening from tonight, joining our global community in spirit. Now, let the cares of the day gently fade away. Find your quiet space, perhaps say a silent prayer, breathe deeply, and let us open our hearts and minds to the wisdom, comfort, and unfolding wonder of God's Word in this ancient narrative. You find yourself in Jerusalem, a city already ancient, yet on the cusp of a transformation that will echo through millennia. The air is cooler now, the fierce sun of the day beginning its slow descent behind the familiar, undulating hills of Judea. A gentle breeze whispers through olive groves, carrying the faint scent of dust, distant cooking fires, and something else in anticipatory stillness. King David, your beloved warrior king, the shepherd who became a monarch, now rests with his fathers. His dream, a passionate, burning desire to build a permanent house for the Lord, a sanctuary for the Ark of the Covenant, remains unfulfilled by his own hands. For his were hands of war. But the dream did not die with him. It was a seed, carefully planted, divinely nurtured, and now, under his son Solomon, it is ready to sprout, to reach towards the heavens. You are standing on the gentle slope of Mount Moriah, the very place tradition holds that Abraham, your forefather in faith, prepared to offer his son Isaac, a place already hallowed by obedience and divine intervention. The site has been chosen, not by human whim, but by divine designation, revealed to David. It is the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, a place of toil, of separating grain from chaff, now to become a place of ultimate sanctity. You feel the weight of this history beneath your feet, the layers of faith and encounter that sanctify this ground. The city around you hums with a new kind of energy. It is not the boisterous energy of a festival, nor the tense alertness of a city bracing for conflict. Instead, it is a focused hum, a quiet thrum of purpose. Solomon, young but endowed with a wisdom that seems to far exceed his years, so wisdom prayed for, and granted by God, has embraced his father's vision. You see him, perhaps in your mind's eye, not always in regal splendor, but often in contemplation, poring over plans, his brow furrowed in thought, his lips moving in quiet prayer. His father, David, had not been idle in his waiting. He had spent years, as the chronicler tells us, preparing materials in abundance: gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and precious stones. Imagine the treasury, not just filled with the spoils of war, but overflowing with resources dedicated, consecrated for this very purpose. David's heart, though barred from building, was fully invested in providing. It's a profound lesson, isn't it? Sometimes our role is to prepare the way for others, to lay a foundation upon which future generations will build. You hear the soft rustle of parchment. These are not merely architectural drawings. They are visions given form, sacred geometry. The pattern, David had said, was given to him by the Spirit of the Lord. Think of that, the divine blueprint for a place where heaven and earth might, in some mystical way, mate, There's a reverence in the way these plans are handled. Discussed by Solomon and his most trusted advisors, the measurements are precise, the details intricate. This is not to be just any building. It is to be a reflection of heavenly realities, a place fitting for the presence of the Almighty. The management of this immense project begins not with the hewing of stone or the felling of timber, but here, in these quiet moments of prayerful planning, in the careful consideration of every detail. Solomon's wisdom, a divine gift, is immediately put to the test. How does one organize such a colossal undertaking? How does one inspire and direct tens of thousands of laborers? How does one source the finest materials from distant lands? The task seems almost overwhelming, yet there is a palpable sense of calm assurance emanating from the king and his inner circle. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are engaged in God's work, under his guidance. You sense the beginning of mobilization. Messengers are dispatched, their sandals kicking up puffs of dust as they journey on swift mules or camels. Letters bearing the royal seal are sent to neighboring kingdoms. One of the most significant of these is to Hiram, king of Tyre. Tyre, a bustling Phoenician port city to the north, famed for its skilled craftsmen and its access to the magnificent cedars of Lebanon. David had enjoyed a strong alliance with Hiram, and Solomon now seeks to renew and expand this friendship for the sacred project. Imagine the scene as Solomon dictates his letter to Hiram. His voice, calm and measured, resonates with the importance of the task. He speaks of his father David's intention and of the Lord's promise that his son would build the house. He requests timber, specifically cedar and cypress, trees renowned for their beauty, durability, and fragrance. He also requests skilled artisans, for the Israelites, while strong in faith and agriculture, were not yet renowned for the intricate craftsmanship required for such a temple. You can almost hear the scratching of the scribe's reed pen on the papyrus, each stroke capturing the king's carefully chosen words. The language is respectful, diplomatic, yet firm in its purpose. This is ancient construction management at its most foundational, securing resources, building alliances. And then you await the reply. There's a period of quiet anticipation. The smooth running of this project depends so much on this international cooperation. When Hiram's messengers return, their arrival brings a wave of relief and gratitude. Hiram's response, as recorded in the scriptures, is filled with warmth and enthusiasm. He rejoices that the Lord has given David such a wise son to rule over this great people. He pledges to supply all the timber Solomon needs, the famed cedars of Lebanon, floated down the coast as rafts to a place Solomon designates. In return, Solomon will supply Hiram's household with wheat and pure olive oil, a fair exchange, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared benefit. The gentle sound here is the rustle of agreement, the quiet satisfaction of a diplomatic mission accomplished. It is the sound of doors opening, of resources being unlocked. It's a reminder that God often works through human relationships, through cooperation and goodwill between people, even between nations. Now, with the primary materials secured, the focus shifts to the workforce. This is not a task for a few dozen, or even a few hundred. The scale is immense. Solomon institutes a levy from all Israel, 30,000 men. But this is not a forced, oppressive conscription as some later kings might impose. It is organized with remarkable consideration. 10,000 men go to Lebanon for a month, then they return home for 2 months, while another group takes their place. This rotation system ensures that the men can also tend to their own families and lands, preventing undue hardship. It is a mark of wise leadership, understanding the needs of the people even amidst a project of national and spiritual importance. You can almost hear the quiet murmur of organization, the calling of names, the forming of groups. There is order, not chaos. Adoniram is placed over this levy, a man entrusted with immense logistical responsibility. Beyond these lumberjacks, there are 70,000 carriers of burdens, men who will transport materials, and 80,000 stonecutters in the hill country, in the quarries. Imagine the sheer number of people, a veritable army of artisans and laborers, all dedicated to this one purpose, and overseeing them, 3,300 chief officers, according to the Book of Kings, or 3,600, as the Book of Chronicles details. a minor difference that scholars note with interest, perhaps reflecting different accounting methods or categories of supervisors, but not detracting from the immense scale of the organized labor. These are the project managers, the foremen, ensuring that the work proceeds smoothly, that standards are met, that the divine blueprint is meticulously followed. You might wander, in your thoughts, to those quarries. Though the temple site itself will be free from the clang of hammer and chisel, the quarries are alive with activity. But even here, one might imagine a certain rhythm, a focused energy rather than frantic noise. The stones for the temple are not just any stones. They are to be large, costly, and hewn. This means they are carefully selected, precisely cut, and finished at the quarry before being transported to Mount Moriah. This detail from 1 Kings 6-7 is profound. And the house, when it was in building, was built of stone made ready before it was brought thither, so that there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house, while it was in building. This is a cornerstone of the gentle sounds of ancient construction management. The noisiest, most disruptive part of the stonework happens far away from the sacred site. The mountain where God's house will stand is to be a place of peace, of reverent assembly. The stones arrive as if by magic, perfectly formed, ready to be fitted into place. This speaks of incredible foresight, precision planning, and a deep understanding of the sanctity of the endeavor. The sound here, if you could hear it carried on the wind from the distant quarries, would be the rhythmic tap-tap-tapping of mallets on chisels, the grating of saws. But it's a productive, purposeful sound, insulated from the holy ground itself. Consider the spiritual atmosphere that this pre-preparation fosters at the temple site. As the foundation stones begin to arrive, there is no jarring clamor to disturb the prayers and meditations of those who oversee the work. There is a quiet industry, a sense of pieces falling perfectly into place. It is as if the building itself is rising in an atmosphere of worship. The initial preparations on Mount Moriah itself involve clearing and leveling the threshing floor, preparing the foundations. You see surveyors with their measuring lines, their voices low as they confirm dimensions, angles. Stakes are driven into the earth, marking out the sacred perimeter. There's a palpable sense of anticipation, of something holy about to take tangible form. The earth itself seems to hold its breath. Theologians and thinkers through the ages have marveled at this detail of the silent construction. Some see it as a symbol of the peace that should characterize God's dwelling place, both physically and spiritually within the hearts of believers. Others reflect on the idea that the true work of shaping God's people often happens in the quarries of life's trials and experiences, far from the public eye, so that when they come together as the church, the body of Christ, they fit together more harmoniously. It is a beautiful and enduring image. You observe the dedication of the workers, even the common laborer, carrying stones or mixing mortar for the foundations, seems imbued with a sense of purpose beyond just earning a wage. They are building a house for Yahweh, the God of their fathers, the God who brought them out of Egypt, who gave them this land. There's a quiet pride, a humble participation in something historic, something eternal. Perhaps you hear their quiet songs as they work, ancient melodies of faith and toil, or the murmur of blessings invoked upon the task. The logistics are staggering. Food and water for this vast workforce. Tools, though not used on the Temple Mount for dressing stone, are needed for woodwork, for earth moving, for countless other tasks. The careful accounting of materials, the allocation of tasks, the coordination between different teams, the stonecutters, the lumberjacks in Lebanon, the transporters, the skilled artisans yet to arrive. This is where Solomon's divinely given wisdom shines in practical application. It's not just abstract brilliance, it's organizational genius, foresight, and the ability to inspire loyalty and diligence. Imagine the meetings Solomon must have held with his chief officers. Picture them gathered, perhaps in a large tent near the site, the plans spread before them. You hear the calm, authoritative voice of the king, seeking reports, giving instructions, resolving issues. There are no shouted orders, no displays of frustrated temper. Instead, there is a spirit of collaboration, of shared commitment to the sacred goal. This, too, is part of the gentle sounds, the sound of effective, respectful leadership. As this first phase of mobilization and preparation unfolds, A quiet rhythm establishes itself. The city of Jerusalem adapts to this new pulse. Carts laden with provisions rumble softly through the streets in the early morning. The distant sounds from the work camps, the lowing of oxen. The calls of teamsters are absorbed into the city's daily life. But always, Mount Moriah itself maintains its special aura of developing sanctity. You reflect on the profound faith this undertaking represents. To invest so much, for so long, in a single structure, is an act of national devotion, an offering of the very best of their resources, their skills, their time. It is a statement in stone and timber of their covenant relationship with God. And it all begins here, not with a fanfare of trumpets, but with quiet planning, diligent organization, and the soft sounds of a people setting their hands to a holy task. The gentle sound of ancient construction management is the sound of God's will being meticulously, lovingly, and peacefully brought into being on earth. It is the sound of a dream taking root, a promise beginning to unfold. The sun finally dips below the horizon, and the first stars begin to prick the darkening sky. A hush falls over the city, and over Mount Moriah. The workers rest, the planners reflect, and in the quiet, you feel a profound sense of peace, a sense that something truly momentous has begun, guided by a wisdom far greater than any human ingenuity alone. The foundation of faith, like the foundation of the temple, is being laid with care, with reverence, and with an eye towards eternity. The air is cool and filled with the promise of what is to come, a sanctuary built without the harsh noise of iron, a testament to a God who often speaks in a still, small voice. You feel the profound significance of this initial stage, the careful laying of groundwork, the gathering of will and resource, the establishment of a peaceful, purposeful rhythm that will characterize the entire 7 years of construction. It is an invitation to consider the foundations in our own lives of faith. Are they laid with similar care, similar dedication, similar trust in divine guidance? The gentle whisper of the wind over the chosen mount seems to affirm the sanctity of this beginning, a sacred project initiated in wisdom and proceeding in peace. The memory of David's fervent desire, now transitioning into Solomon's capable hands, creates a bridge of continuity, a golden thread of divine purpose woven through generations. And you realize that this careful, prayerful, and incredibly well-managed preparation is, in itself, an act of worship, a prelude to the grandeur that will rise from this holy ground. The silence of the night is punctuated only by the distant call of a night bird, or the soft tread of a guard making his rounds, a silence that seems to magnify the sacredness of the enterprise about to fully unfold. With the morning light, the initial stirrings of this massive project are like the first, quiet notes of a grand symphony. Each movement, each task, however small it may seem in isolation, contributes to the overarching harmony. You see the foremen conferring with their teams, their voices low, ensuring each worker understands their role for the coming day. There's a sense of shared responsibility, from the highest official to the newest apprentice. The management here is not about control, but about enablement, about ensuring everyone has what they need to contribute their best. Think of the sheer variety of skills already being brought to bear. Even before the main construction begins, there are scribes meticulously keeping records of laborers, materials, and schedules. There are quartermasters organizing food and supplies. There are those skilled in animal husbandry, tending to the oxen and donkeys that will be vital for transport. There are leather workers mending harnesses and potters making vessels for water and food. Each of these contributions, often unseen and unsung, is essential to the smooth progress of the central task. This, too, is part of the gentle soundscape, the quiet hum of a complex, interconnected system working in harmony. Solomon, in his wisdom, understands the importance of morale, the rotation of workers to Lebanon. Ensuring they have time with their families is a key aspect of this. You might imagine him, on occasion, walking among the workers, not with an air of detached authority, but with genuine interest, perhaps speaking a word of encouragement, acknowledging their efforts. Such gestures, though small, can ripple outwards, fostering a sense of being valued, of being part of something meaningful. The true strength of any great endeavor lies not just in grand plans, but in the willing hearts and hands of those who carry them out. Consider the spiritual preparations that must also be underway. Priests and Levites, while not directly involved in the physical construction, are undoubtedly offering prayers and sacrifices for the success of the work, for the safety of the laborers, for the blessing of God upon the enterprise. Their spiritual oversight provides a sacred canopy under which the physical work proceeds. The sound of distant temple music from the existing tabernacle of David in Jerusalem might drift on the breeze, a constant reminder of the ultimate purpose of this new, more permanent house. The selection of Mount Moriah itself speaks volumes. It wasn't just a convenient hill. Its historical and spiritual resonance makes it the only conceivable place. This choice underscores a deep theological truth. God often builds upon foundations He has already laid, connecting His present work with His past acts of faithfulness. The temple is not a sudden innovation, but a culmination, a fulfillment of promises and foreshadowings. You ponder the immense trust Solomon places in Hiram of Tyre and his people. This international collaboration is remarkable for its time. It requires not only diplomatic skill, but also a willingness to rely on the expertise of others, those outside the immediate covenant community of Israel. It's a quiet lesson in humility and interdependence. The finest materials and the most skilled craftsmen for God's house are sought, wherever they may be found, acknowledging that skill and beauty are gifts distributed widely by the Creator. The gentle sound of Phoenician saws in the forests of Lebanon, the calls of Tyrian sailors guiding the timber rafts, these become, in a sense, part of the sacred chorus of construction. The phrase costly stones used in the scriptures for the foundation is intriguing. It implies not just size, but quality, perhaps even beauty, that would largely be hidden once the structure was complete. This speaks to a dedication to excellence in every detail, seen and unseen. It's a reflection of offering one's best to God without thought for human applause. Does this not echo the quiet, often hidden, acts of service and devotion that form the true foundation of a life of faith? The sheer audacity of the project, in human terms, is something to contemplate. To build a house for the God who created the heavens and the earth, the God whom the heavens cannot contain. Solomon himself will later acknowledge this profound mystery in his dedicatory prayer. Yet, this act of building is not born of arrogance, but of a deep yearning for God's presence to be uniquely localized, to be a focal point for worship, for forgiveness, for national identity. It is an act of faith, believing that God will indeed honor this dwelling and meet His people there. The management aspect extends to risk mitigation, though it might not have been termed as such then. Ensuring a steady supply of materials, managing a vast and diverse workforce, maintaining peace and order, coordinating with a foreign power, all these require careful foresight to anticipate potential problems and plan contingencies. Solomon's wisdom, therefore, is not just about grand vision, but also about practical problem solving, about navigating the complex realities of a massive undertaking. The quiet confidence you observe stems from this blend of divine inspiration and diligent, intelligent human effort. As this first section of our journey into the temple's construction draws towards its close, you are left with a profound sense of beginnings. The air is thick with potential. The plans are laid, the resources gathered, the workforce mobilized. The gentle sounds are those of preparation, of careful alignment, of a vast machinery of human effort being brought into harmonious motion under divine guidance. It's a time of quiet excitement, of prayerful anticipation. The city of Jerusalem, and indeed all of Israel, seems to be holding its breath, waiting for the first perfectly hewn stone to be laid, for the first fragrant cedar beam to be raised. The dream of David is about to become Solomon's magnificent reality, a testament to a faithful God and a dedicated people. The foundation is not just of stone, but of faith, obedience, and a profound desire to honor the Lord. And in the stillness of this moment, before the full symphony of construction begins, you understand that the most important work is often the quiet work done in preparation, the careful planning and heartfelt prayer that underpin any endeavor truly worthy of God's blessing. The ancient paths of Mount Moriah seem to whisper their approval, their readiness to bear the weight of the glory that is to come. The dawn breaks over the hills of Judea, painting the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold. You feel the cool morning air on your skin as a new day of purposeful activity begins. The focus now shifts, in part, to the distant lands from which the temple's most precious raw materials will journey. The alliance with Hiram, king of Tyre, is in full swing, a testament to wise diplomacy and shared vision. Your mind travels north to the majestic mountains of Lebanon, cloaked in forests of ancient cedar and cypress. Here, far from the sacred quiet of Mount Moriah, the sounds are different, yet still part of a divinely ordained plan. You hear the rhythmic thud of axes, wielded by Solomon's 30,000 levied Israelites, working in their monthly rotations alongside skilled Phoenician lumberjacks. There's a system and order to their work. 10,000 at a time, they toil for a month, then return home for 2. A compassionate cycle that allows for rest and attention to their own lives. Adoniram, their diligent overseer, ensures this complex rotation runs smoothly. Imagine the camaraderie, the shared effort, as these massive trees, some of which have stood for centuries, are carefully felled. The air is thick with the sharp, clean scent of cedar resin and freshly cut wood. The management here is on a grand scale, selecting the best trees, organizing the felling, preparing the logs for transport. It's a feat of considerable logistical skill. Hiram's men, with their generations of experience in forestry, guide the process. There's a respect for the forest, even as its treasures are harvested for a holy purpose. Perhaps there are prayers offered before a particularly magnificent cedar is brought down, an acknowledgement of the Creator who provided such bounty. The sound of the trees falling, a great sighing crash echoing through the valleys, is a sound of transformation, of raw material being prepared for its sacred destiny. Then begins the arduous journey of these timbers. They are moved, perhaps by oxen or sheer human effort, down the steep mountain slopes to the Mediterranean coast. You can almost hear the creak of ropes, the shouts of teamsters, the lowing of beasts of burden. It's hard work, demanding strength and perseverance. At the coast, these great logs are bound together into massive rafts. Picture the scene, the bustling Phoenician ports, the cries of sailors, the slap of waves against the newly formed timber flotillas. Hiram's promise is being fulfilled. He sends them by sea to a place Solomon has appointed, likely Joppa, the port nearest to Jerusalem. The gentle sounds here are the lapping of waves against the cedar rafts, the rhythmic splash of oars or poles guiding them along the coast, the cries of gulls circling overhead. It is a slow, majestic procession of wood upon water, each log imbued with the fragrance of Lebanon, destined for the house of the Lord. This journey by sea, vulnerable to storms and currents, is itself an act of faith and reliance on favorable conditions, perhaps seen as a sign of God's continued blessing on the enterprise. While the timber makes its slow sea journey, your attention is also drawn to another scene of intense yet ordered activity, the quarries in the hill country of Judea. Here, 80,000 men, the stonecutters, are at work. The stone chosen is of high quality, costly stones as the scriptures describe them, hewn into great blocks for the foundation and walls. As we reflected earlier, the most remarkable aspect of this stonework, central to the gentle sounds of ancient construction management, is that all the shaping, the dressing, the finishing of these stones is completed at the quarry. You are there, amidst the fine white dust that hangs in the air, observing the meticulous labor. You hear the persistent, rhythmic chipping of mallets against chisels, the grating sound of stone being rubbed against stone for smoothing, the careful tapping as foremen check the dimensions with their measuring rods and plumb lines. There are no deafening power tools, no explosive blasting as in modern quarries. Instead, it is a more patient, craftsmanlike process. Perhaps they use techniques like driving wooden wedges into crevices and soaking them with water, the swelling wood splitting the rock along planned lines. It is skilled, demanding work, requiring precision and an intimate understanding of the stone's grain. The overseers, Solomon's chief officers, move among the workers, ensuring that each stone is cut exactly to the specifications of the divine blueprint. Imagine the scene, thousands of men, toiling under the sun, yet with a shared sense of purpose. Their faces are streaked with sweat and dust, but their eyes might hold a quiet pride. They are not just quarrying rock, they are preparing the very bones of God's house. The sounds are those of diligent labor, of tools skillfully applied. But because this is happening far from the Temple Mount, it preserves the sanctity and peace of the building site itself. Consider the incredible feat of organization required to manage this workforce of 80,000. Feeding them, providing water, ensuring they have the tools they need, tending to injuries, maintaining order. It's a city of workers dedicated to this one task. The sound of this distant quarry, were you to listen carefully from Jerusalem, would be a low, continuous hum, a testament to unceasing, dedicated effort. Theologians have often pondered this separation of the noisy work from the sacred site, seeing it as a metaphor for the need for inner preparation before one can truly contribute to God's spiritual house. Our own rough edges, our imperfections, are often shaped in the quarries of life's experiences, sometimes through noisy and challenging processes, so that we can be fitted more peacefully into His larger design. Now, picture the transportation of these perfectly hewn stones from the quarries to Mount Moriah. This is the task of the 70,000 burden bearers. These are not small pebbles, they are great stones, heavy and cumbersome. They are likely moved on rollers, or perhaps on specially constructed sledges or carts, pulled by teams of oxen or many men. You hear the creak of wooden axles, the straining of ropes, the rhythmic chants of men coordinating their efforts to heave a particularly massive block forward. The paths from the quarries to Jerusalem become well-worn tracks, testament to the ceaseless flow of prepared material. There's a gentle sound to this procession too, despite the immense effort involved. It's the sound of slow, steady progress. Each stone that arrives at the Temple Mount is a victory of logistics and labor, a piece of the divine puzzle ready to be slotted into place. There is no frantic rush, but a measured, deliberate pace. The management here involves careful route planning, ensuring the paths are clear, coordinating the arrival of stones to match the pace of construction. It is a marvel of ancient engineering and project coordination. Back on Mount Moriah, the site is being meticulously prepared. The threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite is now a place of intense, yet quiet, focus. The foundation is being laid. These are the great stones, costly stones, precisely cut and dressed at the quarries, now being maneuvered into their designated places. You watch as these massive blocks are lowered, guided by ropes and levers, settling with a soft thud and a sigh of dust into the trenches dug for them. There is no sound of hammer against stone, no last-minute adjustments with chisels. Each stone fits. It is a testament to the incredible precision of the quarrymen and the accuracy of the plans. The atmosphere is one of profound reverence. Workers move with a quiet diligence. Overseers speak in low tones, giving directions, checking alignments. You might see Solomon himself, observing the progress, his expression one of prayerful concentration. This initial stage of laying the foundation is crucial. A flawed foundation would compromise the entire structure. Therefore, immense care is taken. Each stone is a prayer, a commitment. The gentle sound here is the soft scraping of stone against earth, the creak of ropes taking the strain, the murmur of voices in consultation, the almost imperceptible settling of massive weight. It is the sound of solidity being established, of permanence being rooted in the sacred soil. Imagine the sense of awe as these first courses of the foundation rise, a tangible beginning to David's dream and God's promise. The scriptures tell us that Solomon commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and huge stones, to lay the foundation of the house. 1 Kings 5:17. This act of commanding speaks to his authority, but the successful execution speaks to the skill and dedication of his people and his allies. It's a collaborative effort on an unprecedented scale. Reflect for a moment on the symbolism of a foundation. In our spiritual lives, the foundation is Christ, as the Apostle Paul tells us. But the building of our lives upon that foundation requires similar care, similar use of costly materials, faith, love, obedience, prayer. The care taken with the temple's physical foundation is a powerful reminder of the importance of what lies beneath, what supports the visible structure of our devotion. As the timber rafts from Lebanon arrive at Joppa, another phase of transportation begins. The massive cedar and cypress logs must be moved overland from the coast up to Jerusalem, a journey of about 35 miles and a significant ascent. Again, you picture the teams of men and oxen straining at the task. Special wagons may have been constructed. The roads, likely mere tracks, would have been improved to facilitate this. The scent of cedar now begins to permeate the air along these routes, a fragrant announcement of the precious cargo. The sound is one of determined effort, the rumble of wheels, the crack of whips used not in cruelty, one hopes, but to guide the animals, the shouts of encouragement. All this the felling of timber, the quarrying of stone. The complex logistics of transport by land and sea is part of the construction management that Solomon, guided by divine wisdom, oversees. It requires meticulous planning, resource allocation, scheduling, and constant communication. It's a silent testimony to the power of organized human effort when directed towards a noble and sacred goal. The sheer volume of materials is astounding. David had prepared vast quantities, and Solomon is adding to them: gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, stone, all gathered and consecrated. The management of these stockpiles, ensuring they are protected, accounted for, and available when needed, is another crucial aspect of the project. You can imagine storehouses and compounds, carefully guarded, where these precious resources are kept. The gentle sound of scribes making inventories, of guards patrolling, of materials being sorted and prepared for the artisans. As the foundation stones are fully laid and the first courses of the walls begin to rise, the unique character of this construction site becomes even more apparent. The absence of the jarring sounds of hammers and axes shaping the stone on site creates an atmosphere of almost supernatural peace. The workers fit the stones together, and it is as if they grow organically from the earth, guided by an unseen hand. This must have had a profound psychological and spiritual effect on those involved, and on any who observed. It underscores the holiness of the place, the sense that this is not just another building project, but something set apart, something uniquely God's. The wisdom of Solomon is evident not just in the grand strategy, but also in the attention to these kinds of details that elevate the work from mere construction to an act of worship. It is a reminder that how we do things for God is as important as what we do. The process itself can be sanctifying. Consider the challenge of coordinating the arrival of timber from Lebanon and stone from the local quarries so that both are available in the right quantities, at the right time. This is supply chain management in its ancient form, and it would have required remarkable foresight and constant oversight. Delays in one area could halt progress in another. The smooth, almost seamless flow of materials to the site is a testament to this careful coordination. The gentle sound of this process is like a well-oiled machine, each part moving in concert with the others. The human element is never far from your thoughts. The thousands of laborers, far from home, working long hours. What sustained them? Surely, it was more than just wages. It must have been a sense of participating in something historic, something deeply spiritual, a contribution to the glory of their God and the future of their nation. Perhaps in the evenings, round their campfires, you would hear the sounds of storytelling, of songs of faith, of prayers for strength and for loved ones far away. These, too, are part of the human soundscape of this great undertaking. The scale of the project also required specialized skills beyond just cutting stone and timber. There were those who knew how to make strong ropes, those who could engineer ramps and scaffolding, those who understood the principles of leverage for moving great weights. This vast pool of expertise, much of it perhaps learned through generations of traditional crafts, was now being harnessed for this single, magnificent purpose. The gentle sound of knowledge being applied, of problems being solved through ingenuity and experience, is woven into the fabric of the construction. As the foundation solidifies and the initial layers of stone begin to define the perimeter of the house, there is a growing sense of anticipation. The outline of the sacred space is becoming visible. Passers-by, citizens of Jerusalem, would look towards Mount Moriah with awe and wonder. The quiet diligence, the absence of disruptive noise would only add to the mystique, to the sense that something truly extraordinary was taking place. The financial management of such a project also deserves consideration. David had amassed a great treasure for this purpose, and Solomon is adding to it. The payment of wages, the purchase of materials not supplied by Hiram like the food for Hiram's court, The compensation for any land or resources acquired. All this requires careful accounting and stewardship. The gentle sound of ledgers being kept, of transactions being recorded, ensures fairness and prevents waste, reflecting the integrity that should characterize God's work. The light begins to fade on another day of diligent labor. The last stone for the day is settled into place. The last timber from Lebanon is secured in the storage yard. A quiet satisfaction settles over the workers and overseers. Progress has been made. The house of the Lord is rising, slowly, steadily, peacefully. You feel the profound peace that comes from orderly, purposeful work, dedicated to the highest ideals. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management are the sounds of a divine plan, unfolding through human hands, a symphony of cooperation, skill, and faith. It's a testament to the truth that with God's guidance and blessing, even the most monumental tasks can be approached with a spirit of serenity and grace. The stars emerge, silent witnesses to this sacred endeavor, and the promise of the completed temple draws ever closer, carried on the quiet breath of dedicated labor and the fragrant scent of distant cedar. The immense logistical network, stretching from the quarries of Judea to the forests of Lebanon and the ports of Phoenicia, all converges on this single hill in Jerusalem. It is a hub of divinely inspired activity. You reflect on the trust involved, Solomon trusting Hiram, overseers trusting their teams, workers trusting the plans. This web of trust is as vital to the construction as the stone and timber. Any significant breach could cause delays, discord, or even disaster. The management here includes fostering this environment of mutual reliance and shared commitment. The gentle sound of promises kept, of agreements honored, underpins the entire enterprise. Think, too, of the families of the workers. Those in Lebanon are away for a month at a time. A significant absence. The burden bearers and stone cutters, though perhaps closer to home, still endure long days of arduous labor. The support of their families, their prayers, their understanding, are unspoken but essential contributions. The fabric of society is interwoven with this grand project, each thread playing its part. The quiet hum of daily life in the villages and towns around Jerusalem supports the effort on the mount. The scriptures highlight the quality of the materials, costly stones, the best cedars and cypresses. This is not about ostentation, but about offering the very best to God. It's an act of devotion, recognizing that nothing is too good for the Creator. This principle of excellence, of striving for the highest quality in work dedicated to God, is a timeless lesson embedded in the very fabric of the temple. It is a gentle challenge to our own efforts. Do we offer our best, our costly stones? In His service, the physical environment of Mount Moriah itself is undergoing a transformation. What was once a threshing floor, a place of agricultural labor, is now becoming a highly organized construction site, yet one that retains a sense of sanctity. Paths are laid out for the movement of materials. Areas are designated for storing different types of stone and timber. Temporary shelters for workers or for delicate carving work might be erected, but all is done with an orderliness that reflects the divine pattern being followed. The sound of this organization is the quiet efficiency of a well-run operation. You might consider the problem-solving that must have occurred daily. A stone that doesn't quite fit, though rare. Given the quarry-side preparation, a timber that is found to have a hidden flaw, a sudden spell of bad weather threatening transport. The overseers and skilled craftsmen would need to address these challenges with wisdom and ingenuity, ensuring the project stays on track. The gentle sound of thoughtful deliberation, of solutions being devised, is a constant undercurrent. This isn't a mindless, mechanical process. It's one that requires constant attention and intelligent adaptation. The very act of measuring and aligning the foundation stones and the first wall courses with such precision speaks of a deep understanding of structural integrity. These ancient builders, though lacking modern technology, possessed a wealth of empirical knowledge about construction. The plumb lines, the measuring reeds, the levels, these simple tools, in skilled hands, ensured that the house would stand strong and true for generations. The gentle sound of a plumb line being checked, of a measurement being verified, is the sound of quality control, ancient style. It's worth noting that this period of construction Lasting 7 years in total for the main temple structure requires sustained commitment. It's not a short burst of enthusiasm, but a long, patient endeavor, maintaining morale, focus, and quality over such an extended period is a significant management challenge. Solomon's leadership and the spiritual motivation behind the project are key to this sustained effort. The gentle sound of perseverance, of daily faithfulness to the task, is perhaps one of the most profound aspects of this story. The contrast between the distant noise of preparation in Lebanon, in the quarries, and the on-site quietude is a theme that continues to resonate. It suggests that the truly sacred work, the assembly of God's dwelling, is best done in an atmosphere of peace and reverence. The world may be full of noise and turmoil, but when we come to build for God or to meet with God, there's an invitation to enter into a quieter, more focused space, both externally and internally. As the sun sets on this phase of our contemplation, you are left with an image of materials gathered, foundations laid, and the first structures beginning to take shape. The journey from raw resource to finished component has been long and complex, managed with extraordinary skill and dedication. The gentle sounds of this ancient construction management are a symphony of human effort, harmonized with divine purpose. The distant tapping from the quarries, the swish of saws in Lebanon, the creak of transport wagons, the soft thud of perfectly fitted stones, and overarching all, the quiet hum of a people united in a sacred task. This careful, painstaking preparation ensures that when the walls truly begin to rise, they will do so on a foundation of integrity, built with materials worthy of their ultimate purpose, assembled in an atmosphere of peace befitting the house of the Lord. The seeds of David's dream, nurtured by Solomon's wisdom, are now firmly rooted in the earth of Mount Moriah, ready to grow into a structure of enduring splendor. The foundations are now securely in place, a broad, strong footprint upon the sacred summit of Mount Moriah. The great, costly stones hewn and perfected in the distant quarries have been meticulously set, course upon course, creating a level and unshakable base. Now, the very walls of the house of the Lord begin to ascend, and you are there to witness this marvel of reverent construction. The air, still carrying the faint, sweet perfume of cedar from the stockpiled timber, is charged with a quiet, focused energy. The narrative from the Book of Kings describes the dimensions with a beautiful simplicity. The house itself, the main structure or hekal, is 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. A cubit, the measurement from elbow to fingertip, gives an intimate, human scale to these divine proportions. Though the resulting building is grand by any standard of the time, you watch as the precisely cut stones, transported with such effort, are now carefully hoisted and guided into place. Remember, there is no sound of hammer, axe, or any iron tool at the site itself. This profound detail continues to define the atmosphere. The stones fit together as if by an invisible hand, a testament to the extraordinary skill of the quarrymen and the meticulousness of the plans. Imagine the systems of ramps and levers, perhaps sturdy wooden scaffolding, used to lift these heavy stones. You hear the gentle creak of ropes made from sinew or plant fibers, the low calls of foremen guiding the teams, the soft scraping as one massive stone is eased into position against another. It is a slow, deliberate process, like assembling a giant, sacred puzzle. There's a hush, an absorbed concentration among the workers. They understand the sanctity of their task, the importance of each movement. The walls are not of solid stone throughout. The Bible tells us that Solomon built the walls of the house within and without with hewn stone from the quarry, but the interior, the interior is where a new sensory experience begins to unfold. For Solomon overlaid the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the rafters of the ceiling, he covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with planks of cypress or fir. Depending on the translation you cherish, you are standing within the rising structure, and the transformation is breathtaking. The cool, solid permanence of the stone is now being embraced by the warm, fragrant embrace of cedar. Imagine the scent rich, aromatic, slightly spicy, a perfume that speaks of ancient forests and enduring quality. It fills the space, a natural incense consecrating the air. This isn't just any wood. It is the finest cedar from Lebanon, wood that has made a long journey, chosen for its beauty, its durability, and this remarkable fragrance. The sheer quantity of it is staggering. The stone walls are completely hidden from view on the inside. All you see, all you smell, all you can reach out and touch is wood. It creates an atmosphere of warmth, of organic life, even within this massive stone edifice. The fitting of these cedar planks is done with the same meticulous care as the stonework. You see craftsmen, likely including some of Hiram's skilled artisans, working alongside the Israelites, carefully measuring, sawing, though major cutting may also have been done away from the immediate sacred area, or with great care, and fitting each board. The gentle sound of wood being smoothed with abrasion, perhaps with sharkskin or sand. The quiet tapping as planks are snugged into place. These are the dominant sounds now within the walls. There is a hushed reverence, a focused skill. Each plank is a testament to the dedication to cover the mundane with the beautiful, to prepare an inner sanctum worthy of divine encounter. This complete wood paneling, from floor to ceiling, is a significant detail. It speaks of a desire to create an environment entirely set apart. Stone, while strong and foundational, can feel cold, imposing. Wood, especially fragrant cedar, offers a contrasting sense of welcome, of natural beauty refined by skill. It's a profound theological statement in architecture. The strength of God's promises, the stone foundation, is to be experienced in an atmosphere of His enveloping presence and beauty, the cedar lining. You reflect on the dedication required for such an endeavor, to panel such vast interior spaces. Every square cubit, with perfectly fitted cedar, it is an act of lavish devotion. It's a reminder that true worship often involves going beyond the merely functional, offering the best of our resources and our artistry to honor God. Is there a parallel in our own lives, in how we prepare our hearts, our inner temples, for communion with the divine? Do we seek to line them with virtues, with prayer, with the fragrant cedar of sincere devotion? The structure is divided into two main parts, as was the tabernacle of Moses, its sacred predecessor. The main hall, the holy place or heichal, is 40 cubits long. This is where the priests would later perform daily rituals. Then, at the westernmost end of the heichal, Solomon prepared the inner sanctuary, the most holy place, or debir, meaning the oracle or speaking place. This is the Holy of Holies, a perfect cube, 20 cubits in length, width, and height. This is where the Ark of the Covenant, the very footstool of God's presence on earth, will ultimately rest. You watch as the partition for the most holy place is constructed. It, too, is made of cedar, separating this most sacred space from the holy place. The sense of graded sanctity, of moving from the outer courts, which will be built later, into the holy place, and then approaching the threshold of the most holy place, is palpable. Each transition marks a deeper level of consecration, a drawing nearer to the concentrated presence of the Almighty. Theologians have long seen this as a representation of our spiritual journey, drawing ever closer to God through progressive stages of faith and purification. The sheer quietness of the construction within these emerging holy spaces continues to be remarkable. The sounds are those of careful assembly, of wood being joined to wood, of artisans conferring in low tones. There is no clamor to shatter the sacred stillness that is being deliberately cultivated. It is as if the workers themselves are holding their breath, aware that they are building not just a structure, but a mystery, a place where the veil between heaven and earth will be uniquely thin. Now, the artistry begins to flourish, transforming the wood-lined interiors into a symphony of symbolic decoration. Solomon, guided by the divine pattern, did not leave these cedar walls bare. He carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubim and palm trees, and open flowers inward and outward. 1 Kings 6:29. Imagine the scene. Skilled carvers, perhaps some of those master craftsmen sent by Hiram of Tyre, working alongside talented Israelites, begin to bring the cedar panels to life. You hear the gentle whisk of sharp tools against the wood, the soft tapping of mallets on carving chisels, the whisper of shavings falling to the floor like fragrant snow. Their hands move with a practiced grace, transforming flat surfaces into intricate reliefs. Cherubim, these are not the chubby infants of later Renaissance art. These are majestic, awe-inspiring celestial beings, often depicted in ancient Near Eastern art as winged creatures, sometimes with human faces and animal bodies, symbolizing guardians of the sacred. Attendants at the throne of God, their images, repeated throughout the temple, serve as a constant reminder of the heavenly court, of the unseen spiritual realities that surround the worshippers. Their presence evokes a sense of profound mystery and divine majesty. You can almost feel the weight of their gaze, even in carved form, a silent call to reverence. Palm trees, symbols of life, fruitfulness, victory, and righteousness in the ancient world. The psalmist declares, "The righteous flourish like the palm tree," Psalm 90-12. Their graceful forms, carved into the walls, would evoke a sense of peace, of steadfastness, of God's life-giving presence. They connect the temple to the imagery of paradise of Eden, a place of divine abundance and harmony. Open flowers, lilies, perhaps, or other blossoms native to the land, captured at the peak of their beauty. These represent the beauty of creation, the delicate artistry of God, and perhaps the flourishing of life that comes from being in His presence. They had a touch of exquisite detail, a reminder that God's glory is revealed not only in the grand and majestic, but also in the small and beautiful. These carvings are not random decorations. They are deeply symbolic, creating a rich visual theology within the temple. They speak of God's sovereignty, cherubim, His life-giving power, palm trees, and His beautiful creation, flowers. The entire inner surface of the temple becomes a tapestry of sacred art, designed to lift the heart and mind of the worshiper towards heavenly realities. And then, an even more astonishing step, and He overlaid the cherubims and the palm trees and the open flowers with gold fitted upon the carved work. 1 Kings 6:32, speaking of the doors. But the principle applied more broadly. Indeed, the entire interior of the house walls, ceiling, and floor for the most holy place, at least Solomon overlaid with pure gold. You watch in stunned silence as this process begins. Goldsmiths, possessing incredible skill, meticulously apply thin sheets of gold over the carved cedar. The gentle sound here is almost imperceptible, the soft tapping as gold leaf is burnished, the slight crinkle of the precious metal being handled with utmost care. The entire interior begins to shimmer, to glow with a soft, warm radiance. It is not a harsh, ostentatious glare, but a profound, holy luminescence. Imagine standing within the holy place as this work progresses. The light, perhaps filtering in from temporary openings or from numerous oil lamps, would be caught and reflected by the gold, creating an atmosphere of otherworldly beauty. Every carved detail, each feather of a cherub's wing, each frond of a palm tree, each petal of a flower is now traced in gleaming gold. The sheer wealth invested is immense, but it is offered not for human aggrandizement, but as a symbol of the supreme value and glory of God. It is an act of extravagant love and devotion. This overlaying of gold is a powerful statement. Gold, precious, incorruptible, radiant, symbolizes divinity, purity, and eternal glory. By covering every interior surface with gold, Solomon is creating a space that visually proclaims the transcendent majesty of the God who will dwell there. It is as if the very light of heaven is being captured within these walls. You might ponder the symbolism. Our lives, when touched by God's presence, are also meant to be overlaid with gold, with the radiant qualities of His Spirit, with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. The skill required for this work is immense. The gold must be beaten to the correct thinness, applied smoothly over intricate carvings, and burnished to a perfect sheen. This is where the expertise of the Tyrian craftsman, sent by King Hiram, becomes particularly evident. The Bible specifically mentions a master craftsman named Huramabi or Hiram, a different person from the king. A man of mixed heritage, his mother was from the tribe of Naphtali or Dan, according to Chronicles, and his father was a man of Tyre. He was skillful to work in gold and in silver, in brass, in iron, in stone, and in timber, in purple, in blue, and in fine linen, and in crimson, also to grave any manner of graving, and to find out every device which shall be put to him with thy cunning men, and with the cunning men of my lord David thy father. 2 Chronicles 2:14. Huramabi is a key figure in the management of the artistic and fine crafting aspects of the temple. He is not just a laborer, but a master artisan, an innovator, a problem solver. You can imagine him overseeing the teams of goldsmiths, carvers, and other specialists, his keen eye ensuring the highest standards of workmanship. His presence highlights the importance of skill and artistry in the service of God. It also shows Solomon's wisdom in recognizing the need for such specialized talent and his willingness to welcome it, even from outside the immediate Israelite community. God's gifts of skill are distributed widely, and it is wisdom to recognize and utilize them for His glory. The gentle sounds associated with Hiramabi and his teams are those of focused creativity. The murmur of instruction, the tap of a specialized tool, the thoughtful silence of an artist contemplating his work. There's an atmosphere of intense concentration, of dedication to perfection in every detail. This is not hurried work. It is craftsmanship of the highest order, offered as worship. The floor of the main house, the hekel, was made of cypress or fir, as we noted. This, too, was likely chosen for its beauty and durability, but for the most holy place, the debir, even the floor was overlaid with gold. Imagine that perfect cube, 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits, entirely lined with gold walls, ceiling, and floor. The effect must have been overwhelming, a space saturated with golden light, a fitting antechamber to the very presence of the Shekinah glory. Access to this space would be profoundly restricted, entered only once a year by the high priest on the Day of Atonement. Its very construction foreshadows its awesome sanctity. You reflect on the immense coordination required. Stonemasons, carpenters, carvers, goldsmiths, all their work must be perfectly integrated. The cedar panels must be ready when the stone walls are complete. The carvings must be finished before the gold can be applied. The timing of each phase, the movement of materials, the allocation of skilled labor, this is ancient project management at its most sophisticated, all unfolding with that characteristic quietness on the sacred site. The spiritual implications of this phase are profound. The temple is becoming a microcosm of heaven, a symbolic representation of God's perfect and glorious dwelling place. The cherubim speak of His throne, the gold of His divine nature, the intricate beauty of His creative power. It is designed to inspire awe, to draw the worshiper out of the ordinary and into an encounter with the holy. Consider the human element, the hands that carved the wood, the eyes that guided the tools, the backs that bent in labor. Each artisan, each laborer, is contributing to this collective offering. There is a sense in which they are not merely building a house, but are being shaped themselves by the discipline, the reverence, and the beauty of the work. It is a powerful reminder that when we dedicate our skills and efforts to God, the process can be as transformative for us as the product is glorifying to Him. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management now include the soft brushing of gold leaf, the quiet admiration of a perfectly executed carving, the hushed discussions about the precise placement of a gilded panel. The air is filled with the scent of cedar and the subtle, almost metallic tang of gold, mixed with the honest sweat of dedicated labor. It is a sensory tapestry, rich and evocative. As the walls rise higher and the interior work progresses, the sheer scale of Solomon's vision and the divine pattern guiding it becomes ever more apparent. This is no mere tribal shrine. It is a statement to the world, a testament to the God of Israel, built with the best materials the earth can offer and the finest skills humanity can muster. Yet, all this opulence is not for human pride, but for divine honor. Solomon's wisdom, a gift from God, is evident in every detail, from the grand design to the choice of materials and the organization of the craftsman. Theologians through the ages have marveled at the symbolism. The wood, from trees that once lived and drew sustenance from the earth, now forms the inner lining of God's house, covered in the pure, incorruptible gold of heaven. Could this symbolize humanity, earthly and mortal, yet capable of being transformed and glorified by God's presence, made fit to be His dwelling place? The temple becomes a tangible prayer, a hope expressed in cedar and gold. You see the careful fitting of the ceiling beams, also of cedar, spanning the 20-cubit width of the hekel. These, too, will be carved and overlaid with gold. The structural integrity must be perfect, but so too must be the aesthetic harmony. Every element must contribute to the overall sense of sacred beauty. The light within the structure, even during construction, must have been carefully managed. Perhaps large openings were left temporarily, or a multitude of oil lamps were used, their flickering flames dancing on the emerging golden surfaces, creating an ever-changing play of light and shadow, a living, breathing radiance. The sounds of lamps being trimmed, of oil being replenished, would be soft, domestic sounds within this grand, sacred undertaking. The section of the build, focusing on the walls, the inner sanctums, and the initial layer of artistic embellishment, takes considerable time. It is not rushed. The pursuit of excellence, of fidelity to the divine pattern, dictates a patient, meticulous approach. The gentle sound of perseverance, of daily progress however incremental, is a constant refrain. Each completed section of gilded carving is a small victory, a step closer to the ultimate goal. The wisdom in using Hiram's skilled artisans, like Huramabi, alongside Israelite labor, fosters not only excellence, but perhaps also a subtle form of cultural exchange and mutual respect. While the temple is uniquely for the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel, the beauty and skill poured into it are gifts appreciated across cultures. It's a quiet acknowledgement that beauty and craftsmanship have a universal language. As the walls reach their full height of 30 cubits, and the interior paneling and initial gilding near completion for the Hekel and the Debir, a sense of profound accomplishment must begin to settle upon Solomon and his dedicated teams. The shell of the house is largely complete, its interior already blazing with a holy golden light. The air is thick with the scent of cedar, a constant, fragrant reminder of the sacredness of the space being created. The gentle sounds are those of finishing touches, of final inspections, of quiet satisfaction in work done with skill, reverence, and unwavering dedication. The house is being prepared, not just as a building, but as a true sanctuary, a place where the glory of the Lord will indeed come to dwell. The focus now is on perfecting this inner world, this golden cocoon, before the ark can be brought to its final resting place. The silence of the ironless construction continues to wrap the site in a unique peace, allowing the subtle sounds of fine artistry and reverent assembly to define the sacred atmosphere. The sheer amount of gold is almost unimaginable for the time. David had gathered vast quantities, and Solomon continued this accumulation. The chronicler speaks of immense sums. Transporting, storing, and then meticulously applying this gold required incredible organization and security. You might imagine special workshops set up, perhaps under the direct supervision of Huramabi, where the gold sheets were prepared, beaten to the correct thinness, and then carefully carried into the temple for application. The sound of hammering gold into sheets would, of course, have occurred away from the temple site, perhaps in a dedicated guild area within Jerusalem, preserving the on-site quiet. Only the final, gentle application would happen within the sacred walls. Consider the psychological impact on the workers constantly surrounded by such beauty and preciousness. Does it elevate their spirits? Does it instill a deeper sense of the importance of their work? One would imagine so. To be part of creating something so magnificent, so clearly dedicated to the divine, must have been a profoundly formative experience. It's a reminder that our environment can shape our spiritual perception, and that beauty itself can be a pathway to the holy. The differentiation between the holy place and the most holy place is becoming starkly clear. The Hekel, 40 cubits long, is grand and majestic, filled with golden carvings of cherubim, palms, and flowers. But the Debir, the 20-cubit cube, is being prepared with an even greater intensity of holiness. If the Hekel is a royal court, the Debir is the throne room itself, the very epicenter of sacred presence. Even the construction process within the Debir might have been conducted with an added layer of hushed reverence, if such a thing were possible. The management of this phase involves not just logistics, but also quality control of the highest order. Each carving must be perfect, each sheet of gold flawlessly applied. A single poorly executed detail could mar the overall effect. Huramabi and Solomon's overseers would be constantly inspecting the work, ensuring that it meets the exacting standards required for the house of God. The gentle sound of approval, a quiet nod from a master craftsman, or the even quieter sound of a minor imperfection being meticulously corrected, speaks to this commitment to excellence. You ponder the patience involved, carving intricate details into acres of cedar paneling, then carefully overlaying it all with gold, is not a task for the impatient. It requires a meditative focus, a willingness to invest time in pursuit of perfection. This patience is itself a virtue, a form of devotion. In our own lives of faith, are we sometimes too hurried, too eager for quick results, forgetting the value of patient, meticulous cultivation of our inner spiritual temple? The temple build offers a profound lesson in the beauty of unhurried dedication. The narrative in Kings and Chronicles also mentions the construction of the roof structure. He built the house and finished it, and he covered the house with beams and boards of cedar. 1 Kings 6-9. The roof beams, also of cedar, would span the structure, creating the framework for the flat roof typical of the region. These two were likely adorned or prepared in a way that harmonized with the interior's golden splendor, though the primary focus of the gold overlay was the interior surfaces that worshippers would see. The sound of these massive beams being hoisted and fitted into place, again without the clang of iron tools for final adjustments at the site, would be a sound of shelter being established, of the sacred space being enclosed. The concept of sacred geometry might come to mind, the proportions of the temple, the length, width, and height of the hekel, the perfect cube of the debir, are not arbitrary. They are deliberate, echoing perhaps the proportions of the tabernacle, and imbued with symbolic meaning that scholars have pondered for centuries. The very mathematics of the structure is part of its sacred character. The gentle sound of measuring lines being stretched, of angles being checked, ensures that this divine geometry is perfectly realized. Reflect on the contrast between the outer appearance, which would have been impressive stone, and the inner reality of fragrant cedar and gleaming gold. It's like a giada, plain on the outside, but revealing breathtaking crystals within. This speaks, perhaps, to the nature of true holiness. It may not always be outwardly ostentatious to the casual observer, but its inner reality is glorious and precious. The true beauty of God's dwelling, and by extension, the beauty of a life lived in His presence, is an inner quality. The collaboration between Israelite labor and Tyrian artisanry continues to be a significant theme. Solomon provides the vision, the resources, and the workforce for the heavy labor and general construction. Hiram provides the precious raw materials like cedar and fir, cypress, and crucially, the master craftsmen like Huramabi for the highly skilled artistic work. It's a partnership that leverages the strengths of both nations, all for the glory of God. The gentle sound of different dialects mingling, of shared knowledge, of mutual respect between craftsmen of different backgrounds, adds another layer to the peaceful productivity of the site. As this stage progresses, you can almost feel the temple breathing, the fragrant cedar, the shimmering gold, the symbolic carvings. They create an environment that is alive with spiritual meaning. It is more than just a building. It is becoming a sermon in wood and stone and gold, a tangible expression of Israel's covenant faith. The anticipation for its completion, for its dedication, for the arrival of the Ark of the Covenant, must be growing daily among the people of Jerusalem. The ongoing logistical support for this phase remains critical. Food and water for the thousands of workers, tools and materials for the artisans, the careful management of the vast quantities of gold. All these behind-the-scenes activities continue seamlessly. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management encompass these vital, though less visible, operations that sustain the entire project. The quiet efficiency of the quartermasters, the scribes, the guards, ensures that the skilled artisans can focus on their sacred tasks without distraction. The sheer, unadulterated richness of the materials offered speaks of a profound desire to give God the best. There is no stinting, no cutting corners. Only the finest cedar, the purest gold, the most skilled craftsmanship will do. The spirit of sacrificial giving, of offering one's treasures for God's house, is a hallmark of true devotion. It challenges us to consider what treasures of our time, our talents, our resources we are offering to God, and whether we are offering our very best. The darkness of the inner sanctuary, the most holy place, even before the ark arrives, must have been profound. yet it would be a darkness filled with the soft gleam of gold on every surface. When the high priest eventually entered with incense and the blood of atonement, the flickering light from the censer would make the golden cherubim and walls seem to dance with mysterious life. The very construction anticipates these sacred future moments. The sound of emptiness, a holy, waiting silence, begins to characterize the debir, even as the artisans complete their work within it. It is an emptiness pregnant with divine possibility. The magnificent shell of the temple now stands, its interior a breathtaking tapestry of carved cedar and gleaming gold. The walls have risen, the roof is in place, and the sacred division between the holy place and the most holy place is clearly defined. Your senses are still filled with the rich perfume of cedar and the soft, pervasive glow of gold. The gentle sounds of construction continue, but now they are focused on the intricate details, the furnishings, and the adornments that will complete this house as a dwelling fit for the Most High. The master craftsman Hiramabi, with his teams of skilled Tyrian and Israelite artisans, is now at the heart of this new phase of creativity. You turn your attention to the entrance of the debir, the most holy place. Here, Solomon commanded the creation of two colossal cherubim, figures of immense symbolic importance, destined to stand within this sacred cube, overshadowing the very Ark of the Covenant. These are not mere wall carvings, they are freestanding sculptures of olive wood, a wood known for its hardness, its beautiful grain, and its association with peace and divine blessing. Each cherub stands 10 cubits high, roughly 15 feet. Imagine the scale of these figures within a room that is only 20 cubits, about 30 feet high. They would dominate the space with their majestic presence. You observe the olive wood being carefully selected, perhaps from ancient trees, their timber dense and rich in color. The sound here is the gentle rasp of saws shaping the great blocks of wood, the careful tapping of chisels as Hiramabi, or his most skilled carvers, begin to give form to these celestial guardians. Their design would be awe-inspiring, great wings, perhaps human-like faces imbued with serene majesty, bodies that speak of strength and swiftness. The artistry required to carve such massive figures with grace and symbolic power is immense. And then, like the walls and other carvings, these two great cherubim are overlaid with gold. Every inch of the olive wood, every carved feather of their enormous wings, is covered in the purest gold. The amount of gold required for these two figures alone must have been substantial. Picture them standing side by side in the most holy place, their inner wings touching in the center of the room, above where the ark will be placed, and their outer wings extending to the golden walls. They become, in effect, a golden throne, a visible representation of the unseen heavenly throne of God. The gentle sound of gold leaf being meticulously applied to these vast surfaces. The soft burnishing fills the hushed air of the debir. The light within, however dim, would catch their golden forms, making them seem to shimmer with an inner life. Their presence signifies God's sovereignty and His protective watch over the covenant. Theologians have often reflected on how these cherubim, whose images were first seen embroidered on the tabernacle veil and placed on the ark itself, represent the unapproachability of God's holiness, yet also His desire to dwell among His people. They are guardians of the sacred, a powerful visual reminder of the reverence required to approach the divine. Next, your attention is drawn to the doors of the temple. There are two sets of primary doors, those leading into the main hall, the hekal, from the porch, which we will explore soon, and those separating the hekal from the most holy place. The doors for the entrance of the inner sanctuary, the debir, are made of olive wood. Upon these doors, Solomon had carved cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, just like the wall carvings, and these two were overlaid with gold. These are not merely functional entrances, they are works of art, sacred barriers that mark the transition into profound holiness. Imagine the weight of these golden doors, the richness of their decoration, the gentle sound of their perfectly balanced hinges when they are eventually moved, will be a sound of solemn passage. The doors for the entrance of the temple itself, the hekal, are made of cypress or fir wood. These are described as leaves, folding doors, allowing for a grand and controlled entrance. They too are carved with cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and also overlaid with gold. The artistry extends to every significant element. You can picture the craftsmen carefully assembling these large doors, ensuring they fit perfectly within their frames. The application of gold to such large, moving surfaces requires exceptional skill. The gentle sound of these doors being tested, moving smoothly and silently, speaks to the quality of the workmanship. Beyond the main structure, Solomon also builds the inner court. This court, surrounding the temple proper, is built with 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams. This architectural feature, mixing stone and cedar, provides a visual link to the interior of the temple, and perhaps adds a touch of elegance and warmth to the stone courtyard. You can imagine this inner court as a sacred precinct, a place for priests and perhaps for certain solemn assemblies, a buffer zone between the outer world and the immediate house of God. The sound of these precisely cut stones and cedar beams being laid for the court walls is, again, methodical and quiet, extending the aura of reverent construction outward. Now, Hiram-Abi's genius truly shines as he turns his attention to the bronze work. The quantities of bronze or copper, as the term can also be translated, that David had prepared were so vast they were not even weighed. This bronze is now to be fashioned into some of the most iconic and functional pieces of temple furniture. The work in bronze is likely carried out in the plain of Jordan between Succoth and Zarethan, where suitable clay for the massive molds could be found. This again shows the careful management of the project, locating specific manufacturing processes where resources are best suited, and keeping the messiest work away from the Temple Mount. One of the most spectacular bronze creations is the molten sea or brazen sea. This is an enormous circular basin, 10 cubits from brim to brim, about 15 feet in diameter, 5 cubits high, and 30 cubits in circumference. It is a colossal piece of casting, a testament to Hiram-Abi's mastery of metallurgy. You can almost feel the intense heat of the foundry in the Jordan Valley. Hear the roar of the bellows, the shouts of men as the molten bronze, glowing like the sun, is poured into the massive clay mold. The sound of the cooling metal, the cracking of the clay mold as it is broken away to reveal the gleaming bronze vessel, is a sound of triumph, of raw element transformed into sacred art. This molten sea is not just a large bowl. It stands upon 12 bronze oxen, arranged in 4 groups of 3, facing outward towards the 4 cardinal directions north, south, east, and west. Their hindquarters are inward, supporting the immense weight of the sea. These oxen, too, are cast in bronze, each one a work of art. The symbolism is rich. Oxen represent strength, service, and sacrifice. Their orientation to the 4 compass points might signify God's sovereignty over all creation, or the availability of cleansing and purification to all. The sea itself holds a vast quantity of water, 2,000 baths or 3,000. According to Chronicles, another detail scholars ponder, perhaps reflecting different calculation methods or stages of use. It is for the priests to wash in, a practical provision for ritual purity, but its grandeur elevates this function to a statement of abundant, overflowing grace. Imagine this magnificent bronze sea, once completed and polished to a high sheen, being transported with immense effort from the Jordan Valley up to Jerusalem, and installed in the temple court, likely to the southeast of the house. Its gleaming surface would reflect the sky, a miniature ocean dedicated to sacred use. The gentle sound of water eventually filling it, and later, the soft lapping of water as priests perform their ablutions, will become part of the temple's soundscape. Then there are the 10 bronze stands or bases, and the 10 bronze lavers basins they support. These are marvels of intricate bronze work, described in great detail in 1 Kings chapter 7. Each stand is 4 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high, equipped with panels, borders, and wheels, allowing them to be movable. They are adorned with carvings of lions, oxen, and cherubim. Lions, symbols of royalty, strength, and Judah, Solomon's tribe. Oxen, as with the molten sea, symbolizing strength and service. Cherubim, again, linking to the heavenly realm. Each stand has 4 bronze wheels, like chariot wheels, and bronze axles. The level of detail is astonishing, and the work of the wheels was like the work of a chariot wheel. Their axletrees, and their naves, and their felloes, and their spokes were all molten. 1 Kings 7:33. Hiram-Abi's skill extends to complex engineering as well as artistry. Upon each stand rests a bronze laver, each holding 40 baths of water. These lavers are for washing the parts of the burnt offerings. 5 of these stands with their lavers are placed on the right south side of the house, and 5 on the left north side. You can picture Huramabi and his artisans in their foundry, meticulously creating the molds for each intricate part of these stands and lavers. The sound of molten bronze being poured, the careful finishing and polishing of each component. The assembly of these complex mobile washing stations, it is a hive of skilled, purposeful activity. The management of producing 10 identical, yet highly ornate, stands plus the sea requires immense organizational skill, quality control, and a deep understanding of metallurgy. These bronze items are not just utilitarian, they are beautiful, symbolic, and speak of the holiness required to approach God, both for the priests and for the offerings. The provision for cleansing is abundant, a visual reminder of God's desire for His people to be pure. You reflect on the spiritual parallel, the need for constant cleansing in our own walk with God, a cleansing made possible through His abundant grace. Huramabi also makes the pots, shovels, and basins all the necessary bronze utensils for the sacrificial services. The sheer quantity and quality of these items underscore the solemnity and importance of the temple rituals. Every detail is considered, every need provided for, with materials and craftsmanship of the highest order. The gentle sound of these bronze implements being carefully stored, ready for their sacred use, adds to the sense of preparedness. Inside the hikal, the holy place, specific golden furniture is also being prepared. The most prominent is the altar of incense, placed before the veil leading to the most holy place. This altar is made of cedar, but entirely overlaid with gold. Upon it, sacred incense would be burned daily, its fragrant smoke ascending as a symbol of Israel's prayers rising to God. You can imagine the exquisite craftsmanship of this golden altar, its delicate proportions, its surface gleaming softly in the light from the lampstands, the gentle sound of incense being carefully ground in preparation for its use on this altar might be heard in the priestly preparations. Then there is the table for the shewbread, or bread of the presence. This table, also overlaid with gold, would hold 12 loaves of unleavened bread, replaced fresh each Sabbath, symbolizing God's continual provision for His people and their communion with Him. The scriptures mention the table whereupon the shewbread was, and later, in Chronicles, tables in plural and golden tables, which theologians interpret in various ways, perhaps one primary table, with others for auxiliary purposes, or a stylistic variation in the accounts. The essential point is the provision of this sacred table, a focus of continual offering and divine sustenance. And of course, the lampstands, or menorahs, in the tabernacle. There was one golden lampstand. For Solomon's temple, he makes 10 golden lampstands, 5 placed on the right side of the hikal and 5 on the left, before the entrance to the debir. These are made of pure gold, intricately wrought, perhaps in the familiar design of a central shaft with branches, adorned with artistic representations of almond blossoms, buds, and flowers. Their purpose is to provide light within the windowless hikal, but more than that, they symbolize the light of God's presence, His wisdom, and His revelation. Imagine the 10 lampstands, their flames burning brightly with pure olive oil, illuminating the golden walls, the golden altar, and the golden table. The holy place would be filled with a warm, vibrant, golden radiance. The gentle sound of wicks being trimmed, of oil being carefully poured into the lamps, would be a daily ritual for the priests. Huramabi and his teams also craft the smaller golden articles for the temple service, the snuffers, basins, spoons or censers, and fire pans, all of pure gold. Nothing is overlooked. Every implement that will be used in the worship of God is fashioned with the same care, and from the same precious material, signifying that even the smallest acts of service in God's house are holy and valuable. The gentle sound of these golden items being carefully counted, polished, and stored by the Levites in readiness for the temple's dedication speaks of meticulous order and reverence. The construction of the porch, or ulam, at the front east of the hikal is another significant feature. It is 20 cubits wide, the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep. Its height is given in Chronicles as 120 cubits. a detail that has caused much discussion among scholars, as it would make the porch tower dramatically above the 30-cubit high main temple. Some suggest a scribal error, others a different point of measurement, or a truly towering entrance structure. Whatever its exact height, it formed a grand entryway, a transition space before entering the holy place itself. And at the entrance of this porch stand two colossal bronze pillars named Jachin and Boaz. These are among the most famous and enigmatic features of Solomon's temple. Each pillar is 18 cubits high, around 27 feet, with an ornate capital on top that is an additional 5 cubits high. These capitals are works of extraordinary beauty, adorned with nets of checker work, wreaths of chain work, and to rows of pomegranates, to 100 pomegranates in total for each capital. According to Jeremiah's later account, pomegranates, with their abundance of seeds, are ancient symbols of fertility, abundance, and righteousness. Huramabi casts these pillars. Imagine the technical skill required to cast hollow bronze pillars of such height and diameter, 12 cubits in circumference. The capitals themselves are masterpieces of bronze artistry. Solomon sets up these pillars at the porch of the temple. The right pillar he names Jachin, meaning he shall establish, or he will establish, and the left pillar Boaz, meaning in him is strength, or in it is strength. These names are deeply significant. They are not mere decorations, but powerful theological declarations standing at the very entrance to God's house. They proclaim God's faithfulness to establish His covenant and His people, and the strength that is found in Him alone. As worshippers approach the temple, they would pass between these two mighty declarations, reminded of God's enduring promises and His empowering presence. The gentle sound of the wind, perhaps whispering around these mighty bronze sentinels, adds to their mystique. Scholars and mystics through the ages have pondered the deeper meanings of Jachin and Boaz, seeing in them symbols of divine attributes, cosmic principles, or even pillars of the community of faith. The entire process of creating these furnishings and adornments, from the colossal cherubim in the most holy place to the smallest golden spoon, is managed with the same quiet diligence and pursuit of excellence that characterized the main construction. Huramabi's role is central, his divinely gifted skill ensuring that every piece is both functional and exquisitely beautiful, worthy of its sacred purpose. The gentle sounds are those of artistry in progress, the sculptor's chisel on olive wood, the goldsmith's burnisher, the founder's controlled pour of molten bronze, the polisher's cloth bringing forth a gleam. You reflect on the sheer coherence of the design. The motifs of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers are repeated on walls, doors, and even on some of the bronze furnishings, creating a harmonious visual language throughout the temple complex. This speaks of a unified vision, a divine pattern meticulously followed. It is a reminder that in God's work, there is order, beauty, and profound interconnectedness. As these final elements are being crafted and installed, the Temple Mount is a place of intense, yet still remarkably peaceful, activity. Teams are working on the inner court, others are installing the great bronze sea and the lavers, while within the temple itself, the golden furniture is being carefully placed. There is a sense of nearing completion, of anticipation building towards the day when all this human effort will be consecrated and, it is hoped, filled with the divine glory. The management here involves coordinating these many parallel activities, ensuring that the artisans have the materials and support they need, and that each element is completed to the highest standard and installed in its correct place, according to the divine plan. Solomon's wisdom is evident in his delegation to skilled leaders like Huramabi, and in his unwavering commitment to the vision. The gentle sound of this intricate coordination is like a master conductor leading a vast orchestra, each section playing its part in perfect harmony to create a magnificent symphony of dedication. The 7 years of construction are drawing towards their culmination, a period of intense, prayerful, and remarkably quiet industry, all focused on creating a space where God might indeed dwell among them. The fragrance of cedar, the gleam of gold, the solidity of stone, and the artistry of bronze are all coming together in a unique and holy offering. The amount of gold used for the interior and its furnishings is so extensive that it transforms the experience of light within the hekal. The 10 golden lampstands would not just illuminate, their light would multiply, reflecting off every surface, creating a chamber of dazzling, yet sacred, golden light. It's a visual metaphor for the glory of God, a glory that is radiant, pure, and all-encompassing. You consider how our own inner temples are meant to be illuminated by the light of Christ, reflecting His glory in all that we are and do. The olive wood chosen for the two great cherubim in the most holy place, and for its doors, is significant. Olive trees are deeply rooted in the landscape and culture of Israel, symbols of peace, prosperity, light from olive oil, and God's covenant faithfulness. To use this wood for the most sacred figures and entrance speaks of a deep connection to the land and its spiritual heritage. The gentle sound of carving this dense, beautiful wood is the sound of indigenous material being elevated to the highest sacred purpose. The sheer logistics of casting the massive bronze pillars, Jachin and Boaz, and the molten sea are staggering for ancient technology. Huramabi must have been a metallurgist and engineer of unparalleled genius. The Bible notes that the casting was done in the clay ground between Succoth and Zarethan. This specific location was likely chosen for its unique type of clay, suitable for creating the massive, intricate molds required for such large bronze pieces. The sound of these distant foundries, the intense heat, the pouring of tons of molten metal, all contribute to the larger narrative of the temple's construction. Even if not directly heard on Mount Moriah itself, the successful casting of these items without flaw would have been seen as a sign of God's blessing on Huramabi's skill. The symbolism of the pomegranates adorning the capitals of Jachin and Boaz is also worth pondering. With their multitude of seeds encased in a single fruit, pomegranates often symbolized God's abundant blessings, the fruitfulness of His covenant, and perhaps the community of Israel. Many individuals united as one people under God. Their presence at the very entrance would be a hopeful, welcoming sign. The careful placement of the 10 lavers, 5 on the south side and 5 on the north, and the great molten sea to the southeast of the house, speaks of an ordered, symmetrical layout for the priestly functions in the courtyard. Everything has its place, its purpose. This orderliness reflects the divine order that the temple itself embodies. The gentle sound of water being poured into these lavers for the first time, readying them for their sacred use, would be a sound of completion and readiness. The checker work and wreaths of chain work described on the capitals of Jachin and Boaz suggest incredibly intricate and delicate bronze casting. It's a level of artistry that goes far beyond mere functionality. This lavish decoration, offered to God, speaks of a desire to honor Him with the very best of human skill and creativity. It's a reminder that beauty itself can be an act of worship. You reflect on the human hands that touched every part of this temple, the calloused hands of the stone cutters and burden bearers, the skilled hands of the carpenters and wood carvers, the precise hands of the goldsmiths, the strong, knowing hands of Huramabi and his bronze workers, thousands of individuals, each contributing their part, their skill, their labor, often anonymously, to this one great sacred project. It is a collective offering, a symphony of human dedication, orchestrated by Solomon under divine guidance. The gentle sound of these many hands at work, each focused on their specific task, is the sound of community engaged in holy purpose. The sheer variety of materials used: stone, cedar, cypress, fir, olive wood, gold, bronze, silver for some vessels, and fine linens for priestly garments and potentially for some hangings, speaks to the richness of God's creation being brought into His service. Each material has its own unique properties, its own beauty, and all are consecrated for this holy dwelling. The careful management of these diverse material supply chains, ensuring quality and timely delivery, is a constant, underlying theme of the gentle sounds of ancient construction management. As this phase of furnishing and detailed adornment concludes, the temple stands almost ready. Its exterior is imposing stone, its interior a sanctuary of fragrant wood and radiant gold, its courtyard equipped with magnificent bronze vessels for purification and sacrifice. The air is filled with a sense of completion, of a monumental task brought to its magnificent conclusion through years of peaceful, diligent, and divinely inspired labor. The focus will soon shift from building to consecration, from construction to communion. The gentle sounds of artistry and assembly begin to quieten. replaced by a hushed anticipation for the moment when God's presence will finally and fully inhabit this house built for His name. The 7 years of meticulous, prayerful construction are drawing to a close. The house of the Lord, Solomon's temple, stands complete on Mount Moriah, a radiant jewel in the heart of Jerusalem. Every stone, quarried and shaped with such precision, is in its place. Every cedar plank, fragrant and rich, lines the interior, itself carved with cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, all gleaming under a layer of the purest gold. The colossal golden cherubim spread their wings in the profound silence of the most holy place. The golden altar of incense, the table for the bread of the presence, and the 10 golden lampstands fill the holy place with a soft, sacred light. In the courtyard, the great bronze sea, supported by its 12 stoic oxen, and the 10 bronze lavers on their intricate stands, await their priestly functions. The 2 mighty bronze pillars, Jachin and Boaz, guard the entrance, proclaiming God's establishing power and inherent strength. You are there, witnessing the culmination of this monumental act of faith and human endeavor. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management have largely subsided. The distant tapping from the quarries, the rhythmic sawing in the forests of Lebanon, the clang of the foundry in the Jordan plain, these are now memories. On Mount Moriah itself, the unique quietness that characterized the build, the absence of hammer and axe on stone, has deepened into a profound, anticipatory hush. What remains are the soft sounds of final preparations, the sweeping of courtyards, the polishing of bronze and gold until they gleam with an almost liquid light, the careful arrangement of sacred vessels. Perhaps you hear the low murmur of priests and Levites as they inspect the completed work, their voices filled with awe and gratitude. Solomon, your king, has overseen this vast undertaking with the wisdom granted him by God. He has managed resources from across nations, coordinated tens of thousands of laborers and artisans, and adhered faithfully to the divine pattern given to his father David. The result is not just a building, but a testament to God's faithfulness, to Israel's devotion, and to the beauty that can be achieved when human skill is dedicated to divine glory. The sheer financial and material investment is staggering. As the chronicler will later recount, talents of gold and silver almost beyond counting. But the true cost and the true value lie not just in the precious materials, but in the years of dedicated labor, the skill of the artisans, the prayers of the people, and the unwavering vision that saw the project through from its inception to this glorious completion. It is an offering of the very best that the nation could produce, a collective sacrifice of time, talent, and treasure. You reflect on this. God does not need a house made with hands, as Solomon himself will acknowledge. Heaven is his throne, and the earth his footstool. Yet he condescends to meet with humanity, to designate a place where his presence will be specially focused, where his people can come to seek him, to worship him, to find forgiveness and renewal. This temple is an act of human love reaching out to divine love. Now, the focus shifts from construction to consecration. The physical structure is complete, but it is not yet fully the Lord's house until it is dedicated, set apart for its holy purpose, and most importantly, until the Ark of the Covenant, the symbol of God's presence and his covenant with Israel, is brought into its resting place within the most holy place. Imagine the preparations for this grand event. All Israel is to be assembled. Messengers are sent throughout the land, from Dan to Beersheba, summoning the elders, the heads of tribes, the chiefs of the fathers of the children of Israel, to come to Jerusalem. There is a palpable excitement in the air, a sense of national unity focused on this sacred moment. The gentle sound now is the rustle of anticipation, the gathering of a people. The Ark of the Covenant has, for many years, resided in the city of David, in a tent that David had pitched for it after its recovery from the Philistines. Now it is time for it to move to its permanent, magnificent home. You see the priests and Levites, consecrated for this holy task, preparing themselves. They understand the sanctity of the ark, the awe and reverence with which it must be handled. Only they are permitted to carry it on poles inserted through its golden rings, as prescribed in the law of Moses. The day of the dedication arrives. It is the time of the Feast of Tabernacles in the 7th month, Ethanim, a traditional time of joyous celebration and remembrance of God's provision in the wilderness. The timing itself is significant, linking this new dwelling place with God's historic acts of salvation and guidance. Jerusalem is thronged with people, their faces turned towards Mount Moriah, their hearts full of expectation. You watch as the solemn procession begins. The priests take up the ark of the Lord. The Levites also carry the tent of meeting, the old tabernacle of Moses, which had been at Gibeon, and all the holy furnishings that were in the tabernacle. These sacred relics of Israel's journey are being brought to the temple, signifying a continuity of worship, a fulfillment rather than a replacement. The old covenant symbols are now housed within this new, more glorious expression of God's dwelling place. King Solomon himself leads the procession, and with him all the congregation of Israel. As they move towards the temple, Solomon and the people offer sacrifices of sheep and oxen that could not be told, nor numbered for multitude. 1 Kings 8-5. Imagine the scene, the air thick with the smoke of incense and sacrifices, the sound of priestly chants, the lowing of sacrificial animals, the reverent murmur of the vast assembly. This is not a boisterous, chaotic crowd, but a nation moving in solemn worship. The gentle sound here is the deep, collective heartbeat of a people united in devotion. The priests carry the ark into the temple, through the outer courts, through the golden doors of the Hekal, and then, with ultimate reverence, they bring it into the Debir, the most holy place. They place it beneath the wings of the 2 colossal golden cherubim that Solomon had made. The wings of these cherubim spread forth, overshadowing the ark and its poles. It is a moment of profound spiritual significance. The ark, containing the tablets of the 10 Commandments, the very words of the covenant, is now at the heart of this magnificent structure in the place of supreme holiness. And then, a wondrous sign, as the priests come out of the holy place, meaning the most holy place in this context, a cloud fills the house of the Lord. It is the Shekinah glory, the visible manifestation of God's presence, the same glory that had filled the tabernacle of Moses. The cloud is so thick, so radiant, that the priests cannot stand to minister. The glory of the Lord has filled his temple. You feel an indescribable awe, a sense of the numinous, the holy otherness of God, and yet also his intimate nearness. The gentle sound here is the sound of indwelling glory, a silence more profound than any sound, a light more brilliant than the sun. It is God's acceptance, his divine yes to this house built for his name. Solomon beholds this, and his heart is filled. He turns and blesses the whole congregation of Israel, who are standing in prayerful attention. Then he offers one of the most profound and beautiful dedicatory prayers recorded in Scripture, found in 1 Kings chapter 8 and 2 Chronicles chapter 6. Standing before the altar of the Lord, in the presence of all the assembly, he spreads forth his hands toward heaven. You listen, enraptured, as Solomon's voice, clear and strong, yet filled with humility, echoes through the courts. He begins by acknowledging God's faithfulness. Lord God of Israel, there is no God like thee, in heaven above or on earth beneath, who keepest covenant and mercy with thy servants that walk before thee with all their heart. He recounts God's promise to David and how it has now been fulfilled through him. But then, Solomon expresses a thought of profound theological depth. But will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, the heaven and heaven of heavens cannot contain thee. How much less this house that I have builded? 1 Kings 8:27. This is not doubt, but profound reverence and understanding of God's transcendence. He knows that this magnificent temple, for all its gold and cedar and artistry, cannot confine the infinite God. Yet, he prays that God's eyes will be open toward this house night and day, the place of which God has said, "My name shall be there." He asks God to hear the prayers of his people when they pray toward this place. Solomon's prayer then unfolds, petitioning God on behalf of Israel in various circumstances. He prays for forgiveness when they sin and turn back to God. He prays for justice when there are disputes. He prays for deliverance when they are defeated by enemies due to sin, and then repent. He prays for rain when there is drought, for relief from famine and pestilence. He even prays for the foreigner, the stranger from a far country who comes to pray toward this house, because they have heard of God's great name, that all people of the earth may know thy name, to fear thee, as do thy people Israel. 1 Kings 8:43. This is a remarkably inclusive vision, a recognition that God's house is to be a beacon for all nations. He prays for victory when Israel goes out to battle, and for restoration when they are carried away captive to an enemy land. If they repent and pray toward this land and this house, his prayer is comprehensive, covering the gamut of human experience, always returning to the themes of repentance, forgiveness, and God's steadfast covenant love. The gentle sound of his voice, earnest and impassioned, carries the hopes and fears and aspiration of an entire nation. As Solomon finishes his long and heartfelt prayer, another divine sign is given. According to the chronicler, fire comes down from heaven and consumes the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of the Lord again fills the temple so powerfully that the priests cannot enter. The people see the fire and the glory, and they bow themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worship and praise the Lord, saying, "For he is good, for his mercy endureth forever." 2 Chronicles 7-3 is an overwhelming confirmation of God's acceptance. The gentle sound here is the collective gasp of awe, followed by the murmur of profound worship and the unified chant of praise. Then, King Solomon and all the people offer immense sacrifices. The numbers are staggering: 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. The entire nation participates in this feast of dedication, which lasts for 7 days, followed by the 7 days of the Feast of Tabernacles. It is a time of unparalleled national joy, unity, and spiritual renewal. The courtyards of the temple are filled with the sights and sounds of joyful celebration, yet all centered on the worship of God. The gentle sounds of feasting, of families sharing meals in God's presence, of songs of praise, fill Jerusalem. After these days of dedication and feasting, Solomon sends the people away. They go to their tents joyful and glad of heart for all the goodness that the Lord had done for David his servant and for Israel his people. You can imagine the scene: families departing, their hearts full, their faith renewed, carrying with them the memory of the glorious temple and the manifest presence of God. The gentle sound of their departing footsteps is a sound of peace, of a mission accomplished, of a nation blessed. The Lord appears to Solomon a second time, by night, just as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. God affirms that he has heard Solomon's prayer and has consecrated the temple. He reiterates his promise, "I have hallowed this house, which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually." 1 Kings 9-3. This is the ultimate divine endorsement, the fulfillment of all that the years of planning and construction were aimed at. However, God also gives a solemn warning. If Solomon and his descendants turn away from following God, forsake his commandments, and serve other gods, then God will cut off Israel from the land, and this temple, though consecrated for his name, will be cast out of his sight. It will become a proverb and a byword among all people, a ruin that causes passers-by to hiss and wonder why the Lord has done such a thing to this land and this house. This warning, delivered amidst the triumph of the temple's completion, is a sobering reminder of the conditional nature of the covenant blessings. It underscores the importance of ongoing faithfulness, obedience, and heartfelt devotion. The gentle sound here is the quiet gravity of divine truth, the weight of responsibility that comes with great blessing. And so, the great work of building Solomon's temple reaches its conclusion, not merely with the last stone laid, but with its sacred dedication and God's own affirmation of his presence. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management have given way to the sounds of worship, of prayer, of divine encounter. The temple now stands as the spiritual heart of Israel, a place of beauty, a place of sacrifice, a place of prayer, and most importantly, a place where God has chosen to put his name forever. You reflect on the entire journey, from David's initial dream and preparation, to Solomon's wise leadership and prayerful planning, from the felling of cedars in Lebanon and the quarrying of stones in Judea, to the intricate artistry of Hiram and his teams with gold, bronze, and precious woods, from the silent assembly of the structure on Mount Moriah to the glorious infilling of the Shekinah. It has been a story of divine guidance and human cooperation, of extravagant offering and meticulous care. The temple, in its pristine glory, is a marvel of the ancient world, but more than its physical beauty, It is a symbol of profound spiritual truths, God's desire to dwell with His people, the importance of holiness and purity in approaching Him, the efficacy of prayer and sacrifice, the call to faithfulness, and the enduring nature of His covenant love, even when tempered with warnings of judgment for disobedience. As you contemplate this completed sanctuary, you might think of the words of the psalmist, perhaps even composed in anticipation or celebration of this temple. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Lord of hosts, my soul longeth, yea, even fainteth for the courts of the Lord, my heart, and my flesh crieth out for the living God. Psalm 84 1-2. The temple is a tangible expression of that longing, a place where heaven and earth meet. The legacy of Solomon's temple will resonate through centuries of Israel's history. It will be the center of their worship, the focus of their identity, the place of pilgrimage. It will witness times of revival and times of apostasy. It will eventually be destroyed, as God warned, due to the people's unfaithfulness, and then rebuilt, though never quite with the same initial splendor. And ultimately, it will find its true fulfillment in the person of Jesus Christ, who is Himself the true temple, the place where God's glory dwells perfectly and permanently, and in His people, the church, who are called to be a spiritual house, a holy temple in the Lord. But here, in this moment of its pristine completion and consecration, Solomon's temple stands as a glorious achievement, a high point in Israel's history. The gentle sounds of its ongoing life, the priestly rituals, the songs of praise, the murmur of prayer, the footsteps of worshipers will now replace the sounds of its construction. It is a place built with wisdom, dedicated with love, and filled with the awesome presence of the living God. And as you let the cares of your own day fade away, may your heart find a quiet space, a place of inner consecration, where you can meet with Him, whose mercy endures forever. The echoes of those ancient prayers, the scent of that sacred incense, the gleam of that hallowed gold, linger in your mind, a soothing balm, a peaceful close to our journey into the heart of God's Word. The enduring wisdom is that any house built for God, whether of stone and gold or of heart and spirit, finds its true glory not in its materials or craftsmanship alone, but in the sincerity of the devotion that built it and the living presence of God that fills it. The gentle sounds of His Spirit are always inviting us to build such a place within ourselves. The administrative wisdom Solomon displayed in managing this 7-year project, alongside the 14 days of dedication festivities involving the entire nation, is a remarkable feat in itself. Consider the logistics of feeding and accommodating the vast throngs that came to Jerusalem for the dedication. This, too, was part of the construction management in its broadest sense, managing not just materials and labor, but people and national events on an unprecedented scale. The smooth unfolding of these complex ceremonies speaks to thorough planning and organization, attributes highly valued in God's service. The gentle sound of a nation feasting and worshiping in peace is a testament to this divine and human ordering. You ponder the transition from the tangible, physical construction to the ongoing spiritual life of the temple. The craftsmen and laborers, their primary task completed, would now disperse, returning to their homes and their regular livelihoods. But their legacy remains in every perfectly fitted stone, every gleaming golden surface. The priests and Levites now take center stage, their sacred duties ensuring the temple functions as a place of continual worship and mediation between God and His people. The gentle sound of their daily service, the chanting of psalms, the offering of sacrifices according to the law, now becomes the rhythm of Mount Moriah. The choice of the Feast of Tabernacles for the dedication is rich in symbolism. This feast commemorated God's sheltering presence with Israel during their wilderness wanderings, when they lived in temporary booths or tabernacles. Dedicating this permanent booth, this magnificent house, during that festival highlighted God's enduring desire to tabernacle or dwell among His people. It connected the past with the present, the transient with the permanent, all under the umbrella of His faithful presence. The fire from heaven consuming the sacrifices is a powerful Old Testament motif, signifying God's acceptance and pleasure. It occurred with Aaron's first sacrifices, with Gideon, and with Elijah on Mount Carmel. Its appearance at the temple's dedication was an unmistakable divine affirmation. It would have seared the event into the collective memory of Israel. a visible sign that their labors and offerings were indeed received by the Lord. The gentle sound of crackling fire, in this context, is a sound of divine approval. Solomon's prayer, with its repeated emphasis on God hearing from heaven, his dwelling place, even while his name is in the temple, beautifully balances God's transcendence and eminence. The temple is a focal point, a designated meeting place, but God himself is not limited by it. This theological nuance is crucial. It prevents the temple from becoming an idol, a magical box containing God. Instead, it is a sacred conduit, a place of encounter with the omnipresent God who chooses to manifest his presence there in a special way. The gentle sound of Solomon's voice articulating this profound theology would have educated and edified the listening nation. The warning that God gives Solomon after the dedication is a sobering counterpoint to the jubilant celebrations. It underscores that the temple's sanctity and God's presence within it are not unconditional. They depend on Israel's continued faithfulness to the covenant. This foresight of potential failure and its consequences is a recurring theme in God's relationship with his people, a call to vigilance and wholehearted obedience. The gentle sound of this divine warning is a sound of loving concern, a desire to protect his people from the sorrow of disobedience. Reflect on the enduring human need for sacred space. While God is everywhere, the human spirit often benefits from designated places set apart for worship, reflection, and encounter with the divine. Solomon's temple fulfilled this need for ancient Israel in a magnificent way. It provided a tangible center for their faith, a place where they could collectively and individually draw near to God. This longing for sacred space continues in various forms in religious traditions around the world, a testament to our innate desire to connect with something larger than ourselves. The very materials of the temple stone, cedar, gold, bronze speak of permanence, preciousness, and purity. These were the finest materials available, offered without reservation. This act of giving the best to God is a timeless principle of worship. It's not about the monetary value per se, but about the heart attitude, the willingness to honor God with our substance, with the first fruits of our labor and creativity. The gentle sound of these materials being consecrated and used for a holy purpose transforms them from mere commodities into vehicles of worship. Consider, too, the silence of the ark in the most holy place. It contained the 10 Commandments, the testimony. It did not speak with an audible voice, yet its presence was the most powerful declaration of God's covenant and his moral law at the heart of Israel's life. The profound silence of the Debir, broken only once a year by the high priest, was a silence pregnant with meaning, a silence that spoke louder than any words of God's holiness and his foundational precepts for his people. The 7 years of construction followed by 14 days of dedication. It's a significant investment of time and national focus. This underscores the priority given to establishing this central sanctuary. It was not a peripheral project, but one that defined Solomon's early reign and shaped Israel's religious identity for centuries. The management of such a long-term commitment, keeping the vision alive and the workforce motivated, required extraordinary leadership, sustained by divine grace. As our journey through the building of Solomon's temple concludes, you are left with a sense of awe at the grandeur of the vision, the meticulousness of its execution, and the profound spiritual truths it embodies. The gentle sounds of ancient construction management have led us to a place of quiet reverence, a place where human artistry and divine glory met. This story, preserved in God's Word, continues to speak to us today, reminding us of the beauty of dedicated service, the importance of sacred space in our lives, both external and internal, and the enduring faithfulness of the God who desires to dwell among his people. May the peace that characterized the temple's construction and the glory that filled its courts find an echo in your own heart tonight as you rest in his presence.